The wedding hall was adorned with fresh white roses, golden chandeliers casting a soft glow over the guests, and elegant silk drapes hanging gracefully from the ceilings. It was supposed to be the most beautiful day of my life, a moment I had dreamt of since childhood. I stood before the mirror in my dressing room, adjusting my lace-trimmed veil. My heart pounded with nervous excitement as I imagined walking down the aisle toward the man I loved, Daniel. My soon-to-be husband. "Are you ready, Rachel?" my best friend, Olivia, asked, squeezing my hand. I smiled at her reflection in the mirror, my eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life," I whispered. Everything was perfect. At least, that's what I thought. As I took one last deep breath and stepped out of the dressing room, the sound of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses filled the air. The guests were seated, waiting for the grand moment. My father, looking dapper in his tailored suit, offered me his arm with a proud smile. "It's time, sweetheart," he said. I nodded, tightening my grip on his arm as the wedding march began to play. But what I didn't know was that my perfect day was about to turn into a nightmare. The ceremony had gone smoothly, at first. Daniel stood at the altar, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. His gaze held admiration, love, and excitement. I felt like the luckiest woman alive. Everything seemed fine until we reached the reception. That was when it all began to unravel. Daniel's best friend, Logan, had always been the mischievous type, but I had tolerated him for Daniel's sake. He was loud, arrogant, and loved to be the center of attention. But today, he was supposed to be on his best behavior. At least, that's what I thought. "Ladies and gentlemen," Logan's voice boomed over the microphone. "Before we get too deep into the celebrations, I have a little surprise for our beautiful bride." The guests turned toward him, some laughing, others intrigued. My stomach twisted. "Logan," Daniel started, but Logan grinned and waved him off. "Relax, Danny boy. It's all in good fun." The next moment, the projector screen lit up. At first, I thought it was a slideshow of Daniel and me, our journey together. But as the images flickered onto the screen, my blood ran cold. It wasn't a slideshow of us. It was a video. Of me. From years ago. A prank video. I gasped as I watched my 18-year-old self flash across the screen. I had been young, reckless, and dared to participate in a silly university challenge where I had to do something embarrassing in public. I had danced ridiculously in the middle of a mall in my pajamas while singing terribly off-key. It had been harmless fun. A silly teenage moment. But the way Logan presented it, playing the video over and over again while laughing at my expense, turned it into something else. The guests erupted into laughter. Some pointed. Others whispered. I could hear the murmurs. "Is this the bride? This is embarrassing. What kind of woman is she?" Tears burned my eyes. My hands trembled as I turned to Daniel, hoping, begging, for him to put a stop to it. But he just stood there, frozen. And then Logan delivered the final blow. "I mean, come on, Danny," he chuckled into the microphone. "How can you marry someone who has zero self-respect? I'd be embarrassed, man." The laughter grew louder. That was it. Something inside me snapped. A deep silence fell over the room as I took a step back. My chest tightened, the humiliation cutting deep like a sharp knife. I looked at Daniel. "Are you going to say something?" My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His hesitation told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't going to defend me. He wasn't going to stand up for me. He wasn't the man I thought he was. With slow, deliberate movements, I reached up and unpinned my veil. The delicate fabric floated to the floor like the shattered remains of my dream. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. I turned to face the crowd. The same people who had laughed at me now stared in stunned silence. "Enjoy the party," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Because there's no wedding anymore." I turned on my heel and walked out. Out of the hall. Out of the humiliation. Out of a marriage that was never meant to be. And as I stepped into the cool night air, took the first deep breath of my new life. A life without Daniel. A life where I would never let anyone humiliate me again.